All right, a happy 4th of July. Hopefully, everyone's doing great. Hope you have a safe 4th of July. We are, what are we, day 4 or 5 into free agency here. I am still in Bristol, Connecticut, and I'm heading home for a few days before I head out to Vegas for Summer League. A little bit of a kind of a whip around, I guess, free agency whip around, kind of the lay of the land and where things stand, and certainly some of the recent transactions here that we are going to talk about. There's certainly a pool of good free agents still available. We've seen a market kind of, we knew this was going to happen when the cap only increases 3.4% and the apron new restrictions come about. We have kind of like a little bit of the perfect storm here. So the advice was, if you have a deal in the early part of free agency, you take the deal because the money is going to start drying up. And I'm going to go through some examples here. So here are some of your top line free agents here. Certainly Tyus Jones is still available. We've got Gary Trent, Luke Kennard. I would say Kennard probably back to Memphis. I'm going to note that. Malik Beasley, Kyle Lowry, Miles Bridges, Caleb Martin, Isaac Okoro. Okoro is a little bit different. I'm going to go into that in a minute. DeMar DeRozan. We'll talk about DeRozan. KJ Martin. We'll talk about KJ Martin in a minute. Covington, Marcus Morris, Taurean Prince went to Milwaukee. I like that signing there. Saric, Crowder, O'Shea Brissett. I would say O'Shea Brissett. I would be surprised if he doesn't go back to Boston. Usually what happens sometimes is when you have a player option, you have almost not a side deal, but you say, look, we're going to opt out, but if we don't get anything, we're going to come back to you. And it would actually save Boston like $300,000 in salary and then a luxury tax, because his minimum number would come down off what he signed. 2-year contracts, when he signed last year, you get the full cap hit on a veteran minimum. His number would be, right around 2-1-ish. So they would get some savings there. So let's do a little bit of a whip around, I would say, around the NBA and kind of what to expect over the next few days. We are in this kind of, I guess, slow period here. Not slow period. We're going to get all the transactions are going to be signed. Contracts will be signed on Saturday. We'll get a flow of contracts. We'll probably do some more videos as far as what we see, what was reported, what is a little bit different here. We still have a ton of extension guys to figure out. We still have some trade candidates possibly we'll keep an eye on. There's no Damian Lillard situation kind of hovering over. So Brooklyn, New York, that trade will get finalized on Saturday. Keep an eye on certainly what New York has to add to the deal so they don't get hard capped at the first apron. Alec Burks goes to Miami. They still have Precious Achiuwa, who they can do in a sign-in trade. Remember, sign-in trades have to be for a minimum of 3 years. Only the first year has to be guaranteed. So that's a little bit of Brooklyn. Keep an eye on Charlotte in the next, 48 hours. They've got that Miles Bridges free agent hold. That's counting. The Hornets are acting as a room team, as a team with salary cap space. So the Josh Green trade will get done over the weekend. Reggie Jackson, certainly they can take him into their room exception here. But keep an eye on Charlotte as far as whether it be Bridges back to Charlotte on a contract to their liking, or possibly in a sign-in trade. Once they, if in a scenario his cap hold does get renounced, Bridges loses a lot of value, and certainly Charlotte loses a trade asset there. So keep an eye on Charlotte for Miles Bridges. Chicago is in an interesting spot. The goal in the offseason certainly was to bring DeMar DeRozan back. We've talked about the inability to move Zach LaVine. Certainly Chicago would be a willing participant in a DeRozan sign-in trade here, but here's the problem. They're $13 million and under the luxury tax. So the goal, if you're going to sign, if DeMar DeRozan is looking for north of $20 million, you're not looking to bring back more than $13 million because you're going to be in a luxury tax unless you move Javon Carter. That's the challenge we've seen with some of these free agents, whether it be Tyus Jones or DeMar DeRozan, is that there are teams that want to sign these guys and there are teams that want to acquire them in a sign-in trade. But when you look at the Wizards and you look at Chicago, they don't want to take back salary and now all of a sudden go into the tax or close to the apron. Both teams are hard capped. Chicago at the first apron because of Jalen Smith. They signed him to part of the mid-level. And the Wizards, multiple different reasons here. Certainly the Valanciunas sign and trade. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The Brogdon trade took back more money. So Chicago would be a willing participant, but there's really once we get more into free agency, it's harder for DeMar DeRozan and Tyus Jones to relocate to a home. It makes it extremely, extremely challenging, and we only have Detroit and Utah that has significant cap space. There are some teams would have trade exceptions, but if Brooklyn acquiring Tyus Jones into their trade exception puts them closer to the luxury tax. So that's it. A little bit on Chicago. Cleveland's got Isaac Okoro, who's a restricted free agent. Look at maybe signing trade options for him. Maybe a bigger wing on a. I don't want to give away the beans here, so keep an eye on Cleveland as far as sign and trade options for Isaac Okoro here. It was funny. I had to do radio yesterday, and the first question was it yesterday or 2 days? I guess 2 days ago. And this was about 30 minutes before Donovan Mitchell agreed, and I had known about it. And they said, "What's going on with Donovan Mitchell?" And I was like, "Well, it's a good question. What's going on with Donovan Mitchell?" And I was like, "I can't say anything." So just keep an eye on Isaac Okoro as far as what happens there. Certainly, Donovan Mitchell signs that 3-year, $150 million extension. It's got a player option. Everyone goes crazy about it, but it's more of a financial decision because he has 10 years of service at where that player option is. He can get another big crack at the apple. But here's another team. They're about $9.5 million below the luxury tax. So if you do a sign and trade with Okoro, you got to be careful as far as what money you're coming back. Dallas, we've talked all along about Dallas. I love their offseason. Najee Marshall, Klay Thompson, Quentin Grimes, the ability to move Tim Hardaway's contract, the ability to create trade exceptions, the ability to get 3 players to replace Derrick Jones. Really like the creativity in Dallas here. Denver, they can cry all they want about a cap casualty by the CBA. When you have a championship team, or what you think is a championship team, sometimes it costs to bring back one of your premier defenders here. And we'll see how these young players in Denver develop here. Detroit still sitting at $25, $26 million in cap space. Keep an eye on them as far as coming in for taking back some money. I'm not big on that Tobias Harris 2 for $52 contract. Who are you bidding against? Not big on that at all. We'll see where that contract comes in. Maybe there's a partial, maybe there's a team option there. Golden State, I was wrong on TV yesterday when I said I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. I think I bet Bontemps a dinner. I would give them a solid B as far as what they've been able to do so far. Melton, Kyle Anderson, we'll see what happens with Buddy Hield. They basically took the Klay Thompson trade exception and are probably going to take that in with Kyle Anderson, and we're still waiting to see if it's a Buddy Hield trade. And then you get Melton on the non-tax. They've got 3 first-round picks, 26, 28. I mean, they can move 25, 26, 28, and then you can move 30 as long as it's in that 1 to 20 range. Which is a value. It's basically an unprotected pick up to 20. So they got 3 first-round picks to move. I really like. I said it all along. I know Warrior fans are not happy with me. They're in a better spot now than they were if they re-signed Klay Thompson. You got to put the sentiments aside here. Clips. We'll see what happens. I would say Westbrook probably gets moved. Maybe it's to Utah. I'm just hypotheticals here. Chris Dunn comes back. That's the only way they can pay him is in a sign and trade. A couple nice saves. Batum, Cam Christie's going to sign if he hadn't a 4-year second-round pick. Derrick Jones, 3-year, $30 million. A couple nice saves. We've talked about the clips on the Zach Lowe podcast. I'm not a big fan of the Kevin Porter Jr. signing for multiple reasons. The Lakers, certainly the hot topic team. The Lakers, LeBron, not surprised, 2 for 104. Has got a player option, the king of the short-term contracts, a true no-trade clause. Bronny signs for 7.9. I've never seen a player draw the ire of so many people when he signed a 4-year, $7.9 million second-round pick exception. It's standard, folks. It's standard. 2 players in the 50s did it last year. Now we can debate, well, the 3rd year is guaranteed. And I feel like telling, and I had an argument with my cousin last night. Like, who gives a crap? Who cares? How does it impact you? How does it impact your life? Why are we arguing about this? Like, it's not your money. Like, who cares? 4 years, $7.9 million, second round exception. The likelihood is that all 3 years are guaranteed, and the fourth year's got a team option. That's the standard for a second round pick exception. Where they are they're right at the apron, second apron. They're over the luxury tax. The apron rules, we've talked ad nauseam. You can make trades and take back more money, but you cannot exceed the second apron. You can aggregate contracts and in a trade, but you cannot exceed the second apron here. So I don't see the Lakers as a willing participant in this offseason, just because what is out there, the inability to move 29 and 31, that's their picks. They got 4 seconds. It's a challenge for them to add to this roster here. I'm just going through all my notes. Miami, listen, same situation. I mean, financially, as I wrote in the offseason guide, they got to get their finances in order for them to be a player here. Bring back Kevin Love. I like the Alec Burks signing. Keep an eye on Caleb Martin. From what I was told, there was certainly the possibility that he could have done a Josh Hart type deal where opted into his contract and then sign a long-term extension. Basically, it would have helped Miami this year and then rewarded him next year. If that's the case, that is a huge missed opportunity on his part. So Miami's kind of just they are who they are right now. Milwaukee, same situation, financially challenged. You get Taurean Prince, who I like. DeLon Wright, you're going minimum shopping just based on their finance. Same with Minnesota. Joe Ingles, PJ Dozier, guys on Luka Garza, guys on veteran minimums. That's why they got Rob Dillingham and Terrence Shannon in the draft. Guys that could potentially come in. New Orleans, we've talked about. Keep an eye on Valanciunas go in a sign-in trade to Washington, and then roping in Atlanta as far as the DeJounte Murray trade. That would allow New Orleans to send out the money that's required to make the deal work. We talked about Brooklyn and New York. Keep an eye on New York as far as the Bridges trade with Bogdanovic, as far as ability to add more money. Keep an eye on Precious Achiuwa. I love everything Oklahoma City has done this offseason. Hartenstein, talked about it on the Zach Lowe podcast. Hartenstein, 3 for 87. There's a team option in year 3. Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, 4-year contracts. There's a team option in year 4. It gives them that window, as we've talked about at nausea, to maximize cap space. They have done that. They are one of the big winners of the offseason. Orlando's interesting. They got out of the gates and signed KCP with cap space. 3 for 66, got a player option. And then they basically took care of their own guys. Gary Harris, 2 for 15. Goga, 3 for 24. I'm interested to see the Jonathan Isaac contract renegotiation and extend. Basically, they took cap space, bumped his number up from 17 to 25, and then descended it down for the next 4 years. I'm positive there's some injury protection and there's some partials in there, and it protects the team there. Mo Wagner's back on a 2-year, $22 million contract, somewhere in that. So they basically brought the gang back, and then they added KCP. I like what Houston did. Philly, keep an eye on KJ Martin. They're going to keep that low cap hold. Keep an eye on them signing him to I don't want to say bloated contract, but a $9 to $10 million contract, and to use. Certainly they need the depth, and then maybe they can flip down the road. There's still some work to do. We've heard about Buddy Hield, of course, but they've got a gapping hole at the 4. Phoenix, another team, limited. I like some of their offseason. Mason Plumlee, Damian Lee, Monty Morris. Veterans here as far as bargain shopping here. San Antonio, Chris Paul. Keep an eye on Sacramento with Kevin Huerter and Harrison Barnes trying to get into play. Utah still sitting at about $34 million. The Markkanen renegotiation cannot be done until August 6th. So there is a window right now where they're basically sitting on $34 million in room. Certainly a name that's being discussed among trade suitors. He has 1 year left. I think his extension number is for 113 over 4. Listen, I think eventually for Utah, you do have to get better. And if you're moving Markkanen off for 3 or 4 more draft picks, it just extends the rebuild that started 2 years ago. So If you're not going to renegotiate him, then I certainly would think his name will be prominent in trade discussions here. And then certainly we've talked about Washington with Tyus Jones as far as either trying to bring him back or a sign and trade. They're only $5.5 million below the tax. So that is it. That's a 15-minute whip around of things in the NBA. I hope everyone has a terrific 4th of July. Stay safe out there, and we will talk soon.